Hey, everybody. Welcome back. As always, thank you for taking the time to listen, and I hope you're enjoying these episodes. For those of you that have sent in comments or suggestions for the episodes, truly appreciate it. Matter of fact, today, 2 of the tips are being driven by suggestions that have been sent in by listeners. So, again, thank you for those of you who have sent in comments or questions. The rest of you, as always, if there's something that you want me to address in these episodes, please reach out. Let me know. Let me know what works for you or that you want to hear. So with that, let's get into round 13 of the tactical transition tips. For the close range group, those of you that transition's on the horizon, you're less than a year out, think beyond your transition. For the medium range group, those of you who've got a few years, maybe, 3, 5, become active in your community. And for the long range group, those of you that may be early in your career or at least a decade or more from your transition, promote now.
You transition out is try to model all of the good things, the discipline, the structure, that little bit of rigidity into your everyday life. And I think that that's a great way to make that transition happen, man.
Figuring out who you are, not what you did. It's not who you are. It's a piece, but it's not the whole you.
Take the time to invest in yourself because it means everything. That's what the difference is. The difference is not just to collect a check. It's to live 25 years, 30, 40 years after you retire and pay it forward that way.
For the close range group, you need to be thinking about your transition and preparing for it because it's coming. Don't get me wrong about that. Maybe even some of you are right in the middle of that transition. So I hope that it's going as smooth as possible for you. For the rest of you, and even if you are going through your transition right now, this is just a step. Your transition is not per se the finish line, or I would imagine not the finish line for the greater majority of us. For those of you who have planned well, have the opportunity to transition out, and you're going to, quote unquote, go enjoy life, all the best. I wish you nothing but joy. I'm imagining, though, that if you've already got everything dialed in, you may not be listening to this episode. I could be wrong. If you are, great to have you, stopping by and listening. For the rest of us, remember, your transition is just a step in your future. It is not the finish line. You need to be constantly evaluating and recalibrating where you're at from not only your transition, but you're moving forward. Evaluate where you end up with your career and where your personal life is. If you're not happy, make a change. None of this is set in concrete. You're looking to build a new you with your transition. If something isn't enjoyable, if you get into that job that isn't what you thought it was going to be, make a change. If where you end up is not what you wanted, make a change. None of the decisions that you make are permanent. You're not stuck in those decisions. Making the decision and once you make your transition, you end up, whether it's relocating, whether it's getting a job, whether it's just venturing out, maybe on your own, whatever it is, you're not stuck with those decisions. The worst thing you can do is make that transition, get into something, and then realize that, man, this just doesn't really work for me. I'm not happy with whatever it is, but then staying there feeling like, well, you know what? I committed to this, so I have to see it through. That's not the truth. At this point in your life, don't stay with something just because you feel like you're stuck. You're not stuck. Reevaluate, recalibrate what you want to do, and move on. Understand also that the first job you land after your transition is likely not going to be your last. It likely may not be the best job for you. If it does, great. But for many of us, we can plan really well. We can get the job that we think we want. But until we're actually able to get in there and do it, we won't know. We won't know if we truly enjoy it. We won't know if it truly feeds us. We won't know if it's truly best for our family. You may have whatever job it is in your mind lined up. Hey, this is what I've trained for. This is what I'm qualified for. I am going to get this job. And then you get there, and what you didn't realize is the company demands 60, 70, 80 hours a week out of you. They may compensate you for it, but is the money you're making worth the significant time commitment and the time away from your family? What if you get into a job and it grows to a point where there's more demands on you, and maybe your company wants you to travel more? So there's a lot of things that you might not be able to completely account for right now in your preparation. And I don't want you to go away from what you think you really want to do, and do all the possible research that you can. But until you actually have the opportunity to be feet on the ground and doing the job, you won't 100% know if that's what you enjoy. But remember, just because you made that decision, just because you prepared for that particular job, doesn't mean you're stuck with it. On the other hand, don't stagnate yourself. You get that first landing spot. If you are completely happy and everything is 100% going your way, maybe you do. Maybe you do ride that position out until you're ready to completely shut it down. But I would suggest that you always challenge yourself. You land in that first spot, how can you improve? Where can you go from there? Can you move up within the company? Can you potentially move to a more demanding or prominent position with another company? Again, if it feeds you and it feeds your family, and I'm not talking literally like in food in their stomachs or food in your stomach. What I'm talking about is if you derive pleasure and passion and it feeds that need to strive within your soul, then of course, keep challenging yourself. On the flip side, if it's not challenging you at all, if it's not feeding any part of you that is making you happy, then you need to move on from it. So to kind of wrap it up, don't stagnate yourself. Don't think that your transition is that your transition is the finish line. It's merely a step in your future. The one thing that I will say, though, is when you make that transition and you're into that new you, whatever it is, if you're truly not happy, and of course, not every job is going to be perfect all of the time. We all know whether it's just a short little blip and you can move through it, but if you start finding yourself kind of deeper and deeper in unhappiness and you start looking at how it's impacting you personally, really evaluate, is it the job? Is it external influences? Is it stuff that you're carrying with you from before you made your transition? Get some help. Talk to somebody who's a professional who can help you through it. So just remember, you're in a great position right now. You're getting close to your transition. I hope that everything's lined up for you great, but it's not the finish line. It's just a step. Keep moving forward. For the medium range group, I would say get active in your community. And what I mean by this is take an interest in your backyard right now. You are looking at least 5 years, I'm assuming, somewhere in that range. It may be shorter, it may be a little bit longer, but you're not into the long range where, your transition is way off on the horizon. Your transition's on the horizon right now. You can kind of see it, but it's still at arm's length and it's got some distance to it. Take an interest in what's going on around you outside of work right now. Especially if you feel that you're looking at something within your community that is broken, or that there's a problem with it, or that you're just not happy, instead of complaining about it to your group, to your family, to your friends, do something to get involved. Even if at minimum, you're just volunteering. You can volunteer at your children's school. If you want to take it a step higher, you can probably volunteer at the school district to help out at multiple schools. I would imagine that there are multiple volunteer positions within your city. Get involved. For those of you who are in the optimal position, your position that you have right now for my veterans, if you're not going to be deploying for the next 4 to 5 years, for those of you in the first responder community, if your schedule allows for it, if you kind of know that you're going to have a fixed schedule for the duration before you transition out, maybe even think about getting into or running for an elected position within your community. The one caveat that I will add to that, though, is the first thing you want to make sure is, just simply because you might potentially have the time for it, make sure you've got authorization from your organization that you're allowed to do it, that there's no conflict of interest in you running for an elected position while you're still doing this job. But that could be something else that will allow you to really immerse yourself in what's going on in your community. Remember this, though. We're all type A people. We're all used to taking charge and taking control of a situation, stepping in and assessing it and start fixing the problem, so to speak. That's not necessarily what you need to do when you get involved in your community. Whether you're just volunteering or you're actually going to try out for an elected position, you're not there to take over. You're there to be a team member. And one of the things that you're really going to be able to do is bring the concept of teamwork to the table. If you get into a situation and you see that one of the biggest problems is the group that you're trying to work with, they don't understand teamwork, then you're there to be a mentor and show them how teamwork can be done. Because for many of them who haven't spent the years that we've spent in these jobs, they don't understand, or they don't have as good a grasp of the importance of teamwork. So be an example of teamwork. Don't be the bull in the china shop getting in there and trying to my way or the highway and I'm taking charge here. Take charge when you need to, but for the most part, be the person who encourages everybody to work together. By doing this, at minimum, yes, you're getting more involved in your community and you're having a say in fixing or correcting or helping whatever you feel needs to be addressed in your community. But you're also enhancing your marketability. You're building on your current skill set, as well as you might even be in a position to develop a skill set that you might not currently have. You might have the opportunity to do public speaking. Maybe your current assignment doesn't afford you any ability to do public speaking, something that you can use to better your marketability down the road. I know this, I kind of repeat this on a frequent occurrence. Project management. You're able to potentially do not only what your current job is, and there's going to be a project management aspect for you now that you'll be able to sell yourself and make yourself more marketable. But also, if you're into a bigger project, say you take on the lead role of coordinating your community's Christmas parade or something of a very large scale event where you're not only addressing your team, you might be integrating other teams. That project management experience is going to make you more marketable. As well as besides simply having our jobs right now, one of the things that potential employers want to see in us is our commitment to something beyond us. And so by getting involved in your community, whether it's volunteering or in an elected position, it shows that you have a commitment beyond simply just what your paycheck job is. So it may seem frivolous to you, but you're going to use these opportunities to make yourself more marketable. The other thing that it's going to allow you to do is you're going to be able to increase your personal network. Those people that are in your community who probably want to hire a veteran or a first responder, but they don't know you. You're not even on any of their radars. All of a sudden now you're volunteering in your community, you're going to the school district, whatever. You have the ability to interact not only with other business owners within the community, but with business organizations, outside organizations that are coming in to interact with whatever event is going on. You really have a fruitful potential to integrate or to interact with a lot of people who can grow your network that is going to potentially open doors for possible jobs down the road. So think about the networking aspect that's going to be built into that for you. And the last thing I'll say with this is you're also learning to work in the civilian world before you actually get there. You'll get exposure to kind of how civilians think. And on the flip side, you'll get exposure to how you interact with civilians. Are you able to tone down your type A a little bit and work as a team? Because the same way it's going to allow you to interact and meet people who could potentially offer you a job down the road, understand this: if your experience is less than positive, it could potentially have a negative impact on your ability to get that job down the road, because somebody you interact with today may remember you as that person who was abrasive, who couldn't work as a team, who was very my way or the highway, and all of a sudden they're friends with the CEO that you want to get a job at that company. This could be a stretch, but just understand, you never know who's going to be talking to who. So utilize the opportunities by volunteering in your community or getting involved in your community to build your soft skills, build your skill set, increase your network, but also remember that while you're interacting in that environment, you're being evaluated also. And so you want to put the best foot forward and show that you are a good workable or a good candidate who can work with teams. For the long range group, promote now. I'll throw myself under the bus with this one. I waited till I was later in my career to start promoting. I allowed myself to be swayed by the mindset that if I promoted, the fun things or the opportunities that I could do would go away. To a degree, that is true. But the benefits in the long run far outweigh any negatives. At minimum, if you're in an organization and you find yourself complaining about how the organization operates, then think about how you can benefit the organization by promoting so that you can be that positive voice to a greater audience. You also allow yourself the ability to now not only better the organization, but you get a broader scope of influence on the people that are in your command, the people that are below you, the people that are coming into your organization. So it would be easy to sit back and simply say, "Oh, I don't like this organization. The administration, whatever is problematic." But how could you be better for the organization and for the people that you work with by promoting and being a positive mentor or a positive influence within your organization. By getting a seat at the bigger table, you now position yourself to be a positive voice, speaking truth to power, speaking upwards to your bosses about not necessarily, and again, I'm going to overgeneralize this. You're going to speak truth to power when you see something's wrong, but you're not there to simply be the thorn, just to be the thorn to the administration. You ultimately want to do it for two reasons: to better the organization and to take care of the people in your command. That should be your motivating influence. You want to be more less selfish and more selfless. Don't promote because you feel it's going to feed your ego. It's going to feed what you get out of it. It should be driven by how can you help make the organization better? And more importantly, how can you make it better for those that are in your command? We've all worked for good bosses. We've all worked for bad bosses. Put yourself in the position of the people that would potentially work for you, and how are they going to look at you? How are they going to flourish in their career because you took the lead and became a leader in the organization? You also have the ability to not only mentor new members to your organization, you have the ability to lead by example, by setting the tone for the right way to lead. There are so many positives that you can give back because you're not simply sitting back and waiting for somebody else to jump on it and go, all right, I'll take the lead, I'll promote. The other thing is, and we all know this, if you spend enough time in an organization, there's going to come a point where it's like, ooh, do I want to work for that person who's junior to me? So promote sooner than later, but always remember, promote to make the organization better, promote to make your team or the people that are working for you better, not because it feeds your ego. You can use this for your marketability because, first and most important, by promoting, it shows maturity. It shows that you have a bigger picture of the greater good, as long as you're doing it in conjunction with the selflessness by trying to make the organization better and making the people better that are working for you. You're always aiming to put the next person in your seat, as opposed to trying to hold on to that seat and claim ownership and never let go. This is mine, and that's not the mindset you want as a good leader. What you want is you should be training the person who's going to fill your seat so that when you do move up, and that's what I would challenge you to do, is continue moving up the ladder. The next person who moves into your seat had a good boss, had a good mentor, and had a good leader to mirror themselves by for them when they take over, as opposed to you not sharing any information, you not encouraging and helping them improve. And so when they take over, they become just another bad boss like we've all worked for. You're going to see a different side to your organization when you get a seat at the smaller table, or however you want to look at it, the bigger table, the more exclusive table. And like it or not, sometimes when you're a member of the rank and file and you don't really get behind the curtain to see the whole process, it's easy to have a very insulated or isolated view because you feel you buy into the negativity that it's impacting you. Whereas once you get behind that curtain and you start seeing the bigger picture, one of the things about leadership is sometimes you'll see that decisions are made for the betterment of the organization, and in turn, it is going to have a perceived negative impact on a certain group within the organization. That doesn't mean that the decisions are wrong. That doesn't mean that that group is being picked on. So your job as a leader is to then reinforce that this is a decision that is helping or benefiting the organization. And like in the movie Saving Private Ryan, where he talks about, complaints roll up, leaders don't complain down. So if you're given that marching order that, hey, this is what we're going to do, sometimes you may or may not agree with it, but your job as a leader is to sell the positives to your team. Also, as a leader within your organization, this is going to expose you to other opportunities to interact within the community. It's going to allow you to interact with other organizations. It may even position you to where you become the representative of your organization at a bigger or broader function. And so all of these opportunities to grow yourself come as a benefit of promoting now. You'll be able to take not only your leadership experience, but you'll be able to take your networking experience. You'll be able to take your experience helping other organizations to make yourself more rounded, more marketable. So you always look at what you're doing now and how you can improve your marketability going forward. So that does kind of counteract what I said before. Promote because you want to make your organization better. Promote because you want to make the people around you better. But there's no doubt about it. The benefits to you are there. Take advantage of those benefits. I'm not saying to completely ignore them, but simply for how it benefits you should not be your primary motivation. These ancillary benefits are just the icing on the cake. The absolute basic, you're going to make more money right now as you promote. So that's going to have an ancillary benefit to you and your family. But the other component is it's also going to give you more money when you make your transition. So yes, do it for the right reasons now, but also be mindful that there are going to be benefits to you down the road that are going to help you in your job hunt, in your lifestyle, in your family's lifestyle, and what you'll be able to do down the road. So in wrapping this up, remember, transition is just a step. It is not the finish line. Once you make that transition and you end up wherever you plan to get to, if it's not working for you, get off the X and improve your situation. Don't stay stuck because you feel like you don't have the ability to change. We're not in cement, people. Constantly keep moving. Evaluate your happiness. Evaluate the job that you end up in. If it's not working for you, make a change. If you've got some time between now and your transition, get involved in your community. If nothing else, you're going to make your backyard better. And maybe expose yourself to other jobs or other ventures that you might not even be thinking about today by simply just getting involved. And for those of you who've got some significant time, decade or more, promote now. Don't push it off. Yes, there are some fun assignments, but at the end of the day, is it worth it to stay in that fun assignment at the detriment of your long-term benefit? So stop thinking short-term. Stop thinking, if I'll use a football analogy, stop looking 5 to 10 yards down the, in front of you and start looking at that goalpost that might be 40 or 50 yards away. like I said, do it not to feed your ego. Do it to be a good boss, to be a good leader, to be a good mentor to those that are below you, so that when you do transition away, you can have the confidence to know that maybe somebody who's taking over for you is well prepared to fill your seat. And you know that they're going to be able to slide right in and keep doing as good, if not a better job than you. And there's nothing, it's not a knock on you if the next person behind you does it better than you, especially if you had a hand in preparing them. As always, thank you for taking the time to listen. I appreciate it. Please follow and share the podcast. If you've got any suggestions that you want to hear in these episodes, please reach out to me. And other than that, I'll catch you on the next one.